Man, I feel like I am just not paying attention sometimes. You see this story that came out this week. You probably heard it already. Especially if you're an all-day listener, you're ahead of me on this one. We just found out that it's now prohibited for the state of Texas to give illegal immigrants in-state tuition at our colleges. And I find that a real slap myself in the forehead moment because I didn't know we were giving in-state tuition to illegals to go to our colleges. That was a thing? We were doing that already? In violation of federal law. And we've just been chilling doing this for over 2 decades? What the heck else is going on in our legal system that I don't know about? Because you would be hard-pressed to find a majority of people in Texas who think that's a good idea. I'm sure there's some kooks out there who think that's good or that's fine or that's fair or whatever. But since 2001, the great state of Texas has allowed illegal alien students to qualify for in-state tuition. They have to meet some of the similar requirements that citizens do. You have to have attended a Texas high school and resided in the state for a certain period of time. But we're allowing illegal immigrants to go to our colleges, and we're wondering why we have an illegal immigration problem. We're wondering why people keep streaming across the border. We're wondering why we're stuck with, 20% of the population is foreign born? My goodness, we make it so easy for them to do it. We make it so just comfortable for them to come here. So let me get this straight. You break the laws to get in this country. You jump in front of the millions of legal immigrants who are trying to get in here the right way, do the paperwork, get the background check, pay the fees, take the test, and these guys get to just go past them. And once you get here, you get free education. Just show up at a school, register your kid. You're not going to get a bill. If there's anything wrong with you or your kid, just go to the nearest emergency room. Get your health care. You're not going to get a bill. You get everything that this country provides. Some of them even get on entitlements. My God. Of course they're coming here in droves. You'd almost be an idiot to not come here illegally. So illegal immigrants, number one, you probably did what I would do. It's probably what's best for your kid. If you didn't have good job prospects or a network of support in your home third world country, heck, why not come here? Not only can your kids get all this stuff for free, but when it's time to go to college, we let them in. How stupid are we? What level of suicidal empathy have we reached where the other 364 days a year we're like, oh, the cost of college is out of control? Well, yeah, cost of college is out of control. You got to subsidize people who aren't even supposed to be here. Not only that, for every illegal alien student whose butt takes up a seat in a Texas college, that's a seat that's not available for a citizen. So you increase in demand. The supply is static. What happens to the cost? It goes up. This is one of the dumbest policies that's existed, and it's been going on for 24 years. And the only reason I wasn't upset about it last week is because I didn't know about it, and neither did you. What the heck? So you go try and read up on this, and there have been attempts to get rid of this before. Texas Scorecard did a nice little write-up where they talk about the closest we got was in 2012 because it came up when Rick Perry was running for president. Someone brought that up, and there have been a couple of bills over the years where they try and do it. It never passes. How does this never pass? How bad are the Republicans, not just in D.C., working on this big, beautiful bill that grows government, but here in Austin? And when people, some of them sound surprised when I say I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. You're not a Republican? I don't support this. You know what I'm for? In D.C., balancing the budget. Here in Texas, property tax cuts. How about not letting illegals get a subsidy? You're not even making them pay the full out-of-state tuition. We're giving them a discount. Insane. Insane that became law in the first place. Insane that it survived for 24 years. And it's also insane that it was only withdrawn after Trump's Department of Justice sued. So 800-288-9227. My mind is just blown. Justin in Dallas, you're on WBAP. Go.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, but out of curiosity, if these individual, quote unquote, illegal immigrants were brought here as children from the age of 4, 5, 6, and all they've ever known was the U.S. school system, can we really fault them for wanting to attend a U.S. college?
Well, I don't fault them for wanting to attend it. I fault us for subsidizing it or for allowing them to. I don't understand the disconnect here.
So what's the solution? Is for them to go back to their country after spending their entire life here in the United States? in our school system to go back to their country of origin and go to college there?
Or they could go to some other country where they legally immigrate to with an E, not an I. But listen, the spoils of your parents' crimes do not insulate because they end up in the hands of their children. So yeah, they came here and they got free school. They shouldn't have gotten that. That's an injustice in the first place. On top of that injustice, you want to now say, well, because of this injustice, we have to do this other injustice to the taxpayers who already got injustice by the first injustice. So no, you're thinking about the kid there who came here, no fault of their own. I'll grant you that, but that is the fault of their parents. And if we're going to, take that incentive away, hey, you can bring them here. They'll get high school, but they're not going to be allowed to go to college. Good. There's a disincentive for parents to come here and bring their kids and just stay illegally for as long as they want and continue to violate our laws and violate the taxpayers. Does that make sense?
You say violate the taxpayers, but immigrants, it's been shown on record, pay over $1 billion a year in taxes.
All right, let me try and put it a different way because I'm not breaking through. Let's say I go rob a bank, and my kid, I have minor children. I rob a bank. I take that money, I give it to them. Now, if I want to come through, if the law wants to come through and say, okay, that money was taken illegally, unjustly, we have to take that away from the kids as well. You can't say, well, kids got that of no fault of their own. They didn't do anything wrong. Their parents just did that. You can't punish them for what their parents did. Yeah, you can.
I mean, that's an error I think is a bit of a stretch, but I see your point.
Yeah, well, philosophically speaking, that's why I stand where I stand, because the ill-gotten gains do not become just because it's passed along to a minor child.
I just don't see the gains as being ill-gotten if there was no malintent on the part of the child from the time that they were.
There was no malintent on the part of the child for the children of bank robbers. I'm letting it process.
I'll let you wrap with that analogy. I appreciate the time.
Okay. Well, I understand why you think that, because you're thinking from the point of view of the kid. The kid didn't do anything wrong. Why are we punishing the kid? No, we're not punishing the kid. The kid wasn't supposed to be here in the first place. You're rewarding the criminality of the parents by continuing the taxpayer subsidized education scheme. Does that make better sense? Did I do better that time, Justin?
No, you've explained yourself. Yeah,
okay.
I understand.
Well, I hear you listening, so I appreciate you at least being open-minded and not calling me like a racist or Nazi or whatever. I'll work on you, Justin.
Yeah,
you'll come around.
Entitled to their own opinion.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I feel like a little naive, a little Pollyanna-ish here. Just learning this week that we've been giving in-state tuition to illegals. And it didn't get ended because the legislature passed a law to stop it either. It was stopped because of a lawsuit. We were allowing... And the reason I find this just so far off the pier is that illegals shouldn't be going to college here anyway. You're not supposed to be here. That's like trespassing in someone's house and be like, nah, go ahead and get some chips and salsa while you're in it. 800-288-9227. Maybe you can try and talk some sense into me because I think some people disagree. Justin in the Colony, what do you think about this?
Well, no, I'm out at Tennessee Colony, out in the middle of East Texas, and out here we have the prison system. And I agree with you.
Wait, stop. You're calling from the prison outside of Palestine?
No. Well, yeah, that area. I work at the prison. Yes, I'm an employee there.
But you're not a prisoner.
No, I'm an employee there.
Just checking.
But yeah, I agree with you. We do not need to. No free tuition for anybody. Sorry.
Well, not free tuition, in-state tuition, just to be fair.
Yeah, yeah. Scholarships are out there for that. That's what that's for. But the people that want to do that. But if the last caller made a comment that all these immigrants pay billions of dollars in taxes, well, I'm sorry to tell you, there's half the staff here in this system down here that are from other countries, other continents, that do not pay income tax on their pay stubs, period. They're in that program, they're brought over to get staff, and they do not pay income tax.
Yeah, I always like that argument, too. No, they're not leeching off the system. They pay more in taxes than the average American. Or, it has the same sort of air kind of fart cloud with it that when people say they're doing jobs Americans don't want to do, that's just like insulting. Like that's not even believable for 5 seconds. And it betrays like a little bit of good old fashioned Democrat racism there. Like you white people aren't even paying your fair share. You native black people aren't paying your fair share. Not like these good old illegal immigrants that come in. And what are they doing? They're scraping the algae off the side of the pool. So all of our economy is based on their tax contributions. I doubt it.
Yeah. Anyway,
wait. So you're saying the employees at the Tennessee Colony Prison are immigrants and they're legal and they're not having taxes on?
Correct. They are brought over from Africa, from different countries of Africa, different countries of Asia. They are adults. They're brought through immigration and they're given these jobs and they do not pay income tax. Income tax is not pulled from their pay stubs.
Hang on. Is this a private prison or is this a state prison?
This is the state prison.
The state is doing this?
Yes.
That doesn't make any sense.
It happens.
All right. So, that's you just wanted me to start a whole nother show over. Justin, you want to send me a little bit more info? I bet you have a storyline I need to dig into and do a future show on. Can you send me an email, james@wbap.com? Let me know all about this system here. Because,
no problem.
Yeah, I am very curious about what the heck else is going on. You can't hire someone from Palestine to work out there. There's not some 22-year-old kid that could get a good state job. And, the state jobs, these are jobs that have, health care benefits and paid maternity leave. And some of them even have pensions still, if not a TSP plan. They have good retirement plans. We're giving those to immigrants. When we have unemployed people in Texas, unemployment rate isn't zero. It came out this morning, 4.2%. That is insane. Is government here to benefit us or other people? Or really, who we kidding? Itself? That's probably the real answer. Fred in Houston, you're on WBAP. Go.
Yes, sir. I'm wondering, are we saying that now they can still go to college here just without the in-state tuition discount?
Yeah, they just have to pay full price.
Oh, okay. Well, then the last caller shouldn't be too upset about the fact that we're not, stopping their ability to go to college in Texas.
Well, he was, I think, responding more to my criticism that they shouldn't be allowed to go to college at all. He was responding because I said because he was saying to me, well, what should they do then? You want to prevent these people from going to college? Yeah, here for sure. Well, haven't you?
I don't think they should go to college here at all.
Haven't you been hit with this like 2,000 times in different media outlets or social media posts since Trump got inaugurated in January? People show you something that is the most common sense, brain dead, obvious yes, and they're like, did you vote for this? Yeah, I did vote for this. Actually, I voted for way worse than this from your point of view. The stuff I would really prefer they do, and I would probably horrify you if this upsets you, if them not getting a discounted tuition is upsetting, well, then they're definitely not going to like my idea that they shouldn't be allowed in our colleges at all.
Well, I also want to point out that probably most of the people who are saying that it shouldn't be on the burden on the child who had no fault of their own being here are probably agreeing that people today who had no fault in slavery should be paying reparations.
Right. The kid who shouldn't be held for the consequence of the previous generation that happened 5 minutes ago. That makes sense. But holding us accountable for something that happened 150 years ago. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the double standard's hilarious, isn't it?
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much.
That's all I want to say. Thanks. Bye.
Good call all the way from Houston, Fred. That's kind of cool. Let's see. Who's next? Martin and Euless, you're on WBAP. Go.
You said something very important at the outset of all this, which was that the students or the children had to meet certain criteria, meaning that they had to attend Texas high school, correct?
Texas high school and, residency requirement. Yeah.
Right. So not only are we, the taxpayer, subsidizing this, but we're also disincentivizing them becoming a citizen in the first place, because if they become a citizen, then they won't get out-of-state tuition, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think if otherwise they were citizens, they might get in-state tuition because they would still meet the residency requirement. I think it just has to be similar to what, like if you moved here from Louisiana, you'd have to be here for like 3 years before you could go to a community college. I forgot what the time limit is, but I think it's actually similar to that. But no, you're right on the incentive structure for illegal immigration is just off the charts, brain dead. The fact that they can just come here and without even lifting a finger already have a better standard of living than if they stay in these countries. I don't know if you've actually been to other countries, not just to the border, but driving around in the hinterlands and in the country. There are still millions of people in countries that are adjacent to us where people live in dirt floors and they have a palm fronds for their roof, and that's not like a kitschy thing like we have a tropical theme going on here. No, there are people who are living a third world existence, and just the fact that they can come across the Rio Grande and get all this abundance thrown at their feet, what a giant magnet that is. And if you want to have real progress in the illegal immigration issue, turn that magnet off. Stop paying for it. Stop incentivizing it. Incentives are huge, Martin.
I'm actually a legal immigrant, and I spent 17 years going through the process. And at this point, I wish I would have come here illegally because I would have gotten a bunch of free stuff. So I'm a little pissed off.
Well, here's what happens. Here's what happens at our hospitals. I know this. My brother-in-law used to work at a hospital. Illegal immigrants go in, have a baby. They give a fake name. They never get a bill. Did you pay for your own babies?
Yes, sir. I sure did.
You're a sucker, Martin. You should have stuck us with the bill.
I'm a moron.
I know. Thank you for doing it the right way, though. I appreciate it. There's good Martin and Euless. I feel like I was caught off guard when I found out that now Texas is no longer going to allow illegals to get in-state tuition. I didn't know we were doing that. What a terrible law. How long has this been in place? Since 2001. And I find this law not abhorrent because I think they should pay more for tuition. They shouldn't be going to our colleges at all. How about this? Here's a new law here from the James Show. We're good at writing legislation that's succinct. If you can't legally be standing in the middle of the quad, you're not eligible for admission. Is that too much of a stretch? 800-288-9227. This is Sandra in Fort Worth. Go.
Hi. 2006, my husband and I moved from New Mexico here. And the first thing I was angry about was Rick Perry saying we had to educate these people as long as they were here. And that's when I found out about the in-state tuition. I have been livid. And we have the audacity to ask the federal government for reimbursing us for protecting the state. The state of Texas is awful. They've been letting this go for years. No, they shouldn't be in college at all. And I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of it. But Texas created their own problems. They created a problem here and kept it going because they wanted that cheap labor. And Rick Perry said, well, they need to be educated. And what happened is they would go to school and they would get their law degrees, and then they would work for immigration attorneys trying to get people in here off. I mean, it's horrible. It's disgusting.
Well, explain to me, Sandra, why whenever I bring this up on the radio show, I hear almost exclusively from people like you. We did have one caller that disagreed with us earlier, but I would say overwhelming, maybe 80-90% of the callers say what you say. But when we send people who are supposed to be our elected representatives down to Austin, they don't pass the laws in the way we see fit. Why do we see such a disconnect?
Because all the electioneering is done very much in secret compared to other places that I have lived. It's hard to get information about them. It's hard to do anything. But the same people are here, and they get it. This is Texas. Texas is not a good place to be politically. It's not what it says it is.
Are we too big? Is that the problem?
I think part of the problem is that most of the people that live here have never lived anyplace else. So they just keep doing the same thing over and over, and they never learn from anybody else.
Yeah,
I'm a Colorado native. I've lived in Florida. I lived in New Mexico. I've lived in North Carolina and here. And this is the worst state I've ever lived in.
Well, I'm not sure this is a Texas-specific thing, because on the national level, this is the same thing the Republicans are doing to their voters in D.C. Republican voters all say they want smaller government. I don't know any Republican that's saying we need to grow government. And then they go out there, here's a bill that wants to grow government, and every Republican is voting for it except for Rand Paul and Thomas Massie.
But the illegal thing is big here. The illegal thing is big here.
Right, I'm just noticing there's a pattern here of your representatives, the Republican Party that so many of you people love so much, they're not representing you. I'm not saying vote for Democrats. No, they're even worse.
I know they're not. They haven't been representing me. I don't like living here. I'd like to go someplace else, but I'm a widow now, and I'm not where I can leave. It's disgusting.
Well,
the illegal thing is disgusting.
at least you have a good radio show to listen to. That's all I can do for you,
Yeah,
Sandra.
I know. Thank you.
Thank you
for saying what you are. Thank you.
David in Dallas, you're next up on WBAP. Go.
What's up?
Hey.
How can you be right about everything and everybody else is wrong about everything that they believe in?
You know, I that is one of the hard parts about being a libertarian. You know, I know really only 2% of the population agrees with me on some of the big issues. Like for drugs, I want to legalize all drugs over the counter, no prescription system, whatever. You can all just go get it at Walgreens or whatever the equivalent liquor store would look like. And when I read surveys, I realize that only like maybe 8% at tops of the people agree with me on that one. And it is tough. I do recognize that I am the odd man out on so many of these issues. And the only way it doesn't really bother me that much is how often I was proven wrong. Because my wife even pulled me aside during COVID. She's like, "Why are you so against masks? Why are you so against the lockdowns? Why are you so against?" And everything. I remember we had this conversation, and I recorded it in a radio show the next day, and then we revisited that 6 months. We revisited it in a year. If we revisited it now, I would look like a genius because now we have the Cochrane report. We know the masks don't do anything. We know the mask mandates don't do anything. We know the vaccines don't prevent you from getting it. We know you can still go to the hospital. You can still die. We know social distancing was just some made up arbitrary number that had no basis in science. So the only reason I sound so confident about saying things that are very unpopular now is I have a pretty solid record of being right, even in the face of disagreeing with the majority of the public.
So then why should we close a country that has been rooted and built by people who have been forced away? I mean, for the existence of the entire nation, it's been anti-immigration. But without that system in place of people coming over and wanting a better life, in China they call this place the Golden Mountain, man. I mean, it is heaven for people.
Are you under the impression I want to stop immigration?
Under the impression that we want to stop immigrants from having access and ability to enjoy the American dream. Yeah.
Okay. So we're all in favor of legal immigration. You don't have to create a straw man so you can win the argument against me. I don't think I'm not sure.
I would jump in and say my argument is that I'm in favor of no borders whatsoever in a totally free world.
All right. So you don't
not realistic.
Okay, but what happens? What happens if we have open borders next year? About 2 billion people move here, and then it's no longer. And then it's no longer America. Like it doesn't.
But you can't say that the American dream currently is fulfilling its promise. It's busted and broken and divided and hurting, and it's because 24/7 people who can't say that they're wrong about anything. My friend, we have to slow down and take a breath and think what is best for humans.
David, you're so far off base here. First, you're insinuating that I believe we shouldn't have any immigration, which is not the case at all. In fact, it's so improper. It's almost slander. I'm just going to assume you haven't listened to a lot of shows, so you're just assuming that I believe things that I don't believe. But I actually am quite happy with legal immigration. We allow more than 1 million people to come here legally every year. That's more than every other legal immigration system on planet Earth combined. So the idea that we've walled off our country to immigration, it's like, not only is it not true, it's like you have to be incredibly misinformed to come to that conclusion. Because on top of the most the most generous legal immigration system, we're allowing millions more to come here illegally. And so for you to come away with the problem with America is, we're too closed off to immigration. That's what planet are you on?
I would say it's bigger than that. It's not closed off to immigration. It's closed off to human being. We've closed ourselves to the fact that, what did ABBA say, the band?
Are you high?
No. ABBA said, treat him well. He is your brother. You might need his help one day. We depend on one another, man. Love is the only way. Like, why are we so hateful, man? That is.
Who's hateful?
All.
I'm hateful? Who do I hate?
I would say, I'm just saying all. Everyone.
Just all. Hey, man, let's just get together. We need to stop being so hateful. I'm pro-human being. I don't care about your specific policy preferences. We just got to stop it. This country's, we're not giving people the American. You sound high, dude. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Do you really believe I don't want legal immigration? Do you really believe that? Oh, yeah. I don't know. I teeter on the balance here. Do these people really think that I believe that, or are they just saying that so they can win an argument in the court of public opinion against a straw man? Ponderous stuff. Well, we had another congressional delegation go to another ICE detention facility, this time in, I think it was outside of Tacoma.
Hi, it's Emily Randall. I'm here with my colleagues, Congresswoman Jayapal and Dexter. We're at the Northwest Detention Center getting ready to do an unannounced oversight visit. I'm so grateful to be joined by my colleagues. And anything you want to say about this?
Oh, yeah. So they're down there, and their concern is due process. That's all. Just due process. They're real big on due process. In fact, Abrego Garcia just landed back in the United States today. We've had to flying back from El Salvador to go ahead. The feds have indicted him on a bunch of human trafficking charges, and so he's going to get his full day in court. So due process, super duper important to these people, at least when it comes to illegal immigrants. My next guest is a January 6th political prisoner, Larry Brock, back on the James Show, Air Force veteran, and now candidate for Congress. But we'll talk about that in a little bit, or I should say state. But your thoughts on this newfound interest in due process, Larry?
It's honestly comical. It shows just how poor they really are as a party, and it shows how corrupt all the judges were that sentenced January 6ers, that they're way more concerned about due process for illegal criminals that have invaded our country than they were for American citizens peacefully protesting an election. So it's honestly reprehensible.
Talk about your experience with due process after January 6th.
Well, I think it's pretty easily summed up in just a couple of sentences. I had my first, fourth, fifth, sixth, and eighth Amendment rights completely violated. But other than that, they did a great job. No, honestly, there was no right to free speech. There was all types of illegal searches and seizures without consent. I didn't have a trial by a jury of my peers, nor was the trial speedy. There was cruel and unusual punishment by keeping me in the hole for 131 days total, 127 in a row.
Isn't that like a war crime?
It actually is a violation of UN criminal code, yes, and it violates what's called the Mandela Rule.
I remember that was brought up because they were concerned that we were doing that to people in Gitmo, the people that did 9/11 and killed American soldiers.
They are always concerned about terrorists and people that are in the country illegally, but they seem to have no regard for American citizens.
Well, my next question, Larry Brock, when you were a January 6th political prisoner, how many congressional delegations came and visited your detention center?
Not one, not a single one. I know you're shocked by that.
Oh, yeah, I just fell out of my chair. So how does that make you feel? These people are falling all over themselves for non-Americans and totally ignored your plight.
Honestly, they should be ashamed of themselves. They should be ashamed that they let the justice system in our country do this to their fellow citizens. Even though I do not agree with them at all politically, I would never let them do that to them. And I don't want political injustice from our side either. There has to be one system of justice in the country, or it's not a real country.
All right. You're running for office now. Give me the 1 minute pitch on that.
All right. The 1 minute pitch is the citizens of House District 106 in the state of Texas need someone that will listen to them, somebody that understands that he works for them and not for himself. My plan is to work with other senior Republicans to eliminate property taxes. Everyone says that. There's got to be a way to do that. I met today with the Texans for a Financial Responsibility president to talk about that. Also, what happened, James, to Republicans that actually believed in reduced spending? My opponent has been in since the 2021 legislative session, and spending for the government's gone up 43%. I would like a pay raise of 43% during that time. So, they're not living within their means. We need to see that. Added to that, I'm not seeing any real sense of urgency in addressing the train wreck that is coming with Texas Power. All right. We need to double our power output.
Real quick, the guy you're running against, he is on the official James Show Rhino list.
Yes, sir. And, the thing that he primarily does is he blocks his precinct chairs. He blocks anybody that criticizes him. The fundamental part of being a representative is listening to the people. And that's why I've been going out in and amongst the grassroots. And James, I'm going to be honest, it's going to be the people that get me over the top. It's going to be those precinct chairs, those grassroots organizations, because I cannot do this, alone.
All right, we got to run. This is Larry Brock. He was a retired Air Force veteran turned January 6th political prisoner, now a candidate for the Texas State House of Representatives. What's your website, Larry?
It's LarryBrockForTexas.com.
Thank you very much. Coming up next, we have the mayor of Boston who's not happy with ICE agents wearing masks. We have Hakeem Jeffries, who says he's going to expose all ICE agents for wearing masks. Does it bother you that ICE agents are wearing masks? I say absolutely not. 800-288-9227. It's The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.